students, today we will study how electrons are arranged in an atom or the electronic configuration of an element. We know electrons are negatively charged particles and they revolve around the nucleus in circular paths or fixed orbits. So, we know, what do we know? Electrons, they revolve round nucleus in fixed path. Suppose this is the nucleus where we have the protons and the neutrons. The electrons will be present in these orbits. These orbits are also known as energy levels. These orbits are also known as energy levels. Now, the energy levels are K shell, L shell, M shell and so on. The energy of the first or the innermost shell. Now the innermost shell is the one which is counted from the nucleus. The shell which is closest to the nucleus, that is the K shell, is the first shell which is lowest energy level. The energy level over here is lowest. The energy increases as we move on. So the second shell is the L shell, third is M, N and so on. Now, how are electrons arranged in these shells? They are arranged following some rules. The first rule is the electrons in the K shell, L shell, M shell or any shell, they are arranged on the basis of the rule that is 2n square. Here n is the number of the shell, like which shell it is. For example, if it is the first shell, for example, if n is 1, that means it is the K shell. So, how many electrons can be arranged in this shell will be given by 2n square, which is equals to 2 into 1 square, which is equals to 2. So, the K shell can have only 2 electrons. Similarly, L shell, which is where n is equals to 2. So, in the L shell, we will have 2n square, that is 2 into bracket 2 square, which is equals to 8 electrons. So, the L shell can contain only 8 electrons. Similarly, M shell will contain 2 into 3 square, which is equal to 18 electrons. N shell will contain 2 into 4 square, which is equal to 32 electrons and so on. So, the electrons are arranged on the basis of this first rule, that is 2n square. K shell, that is the innermost shell, will contain only 2 electrons. L can contain at the most 8 electrons. M can contain 18 and so on, following the rule 2n square. The second rule is the outermost shell, whichever is the outermost shell, whichever is the final shell, can contain at the most only 8 electrons. Outermost shell can contain at the most 8 electrons. Even if it has a capacity to hold more. Means what? For example, an atom has 3 shells. The third shell, that is K, L, M. Now M shell can hold 18 electrons. But according to this, it can hold only 8 electrons even though its capacity is to hold 18 electrons, it will hold only 8 electrons because 8 electrons make it very stable. स्टेबल बन जाता है जब उसमें 8 इलेक्ट्रॉन्स आते हैं। इसीलिए भले ही उसकी कैपेसिटी ज्यादा भी रही तो भी उसमें कितने इलेक्ट्रॉन्स रहेंगे? 8। बट इफ इन केस द आउटर मोस्ट शेल इज द फर्स्ट शेल इटसेल्फ, मतलब जैसे हीलियम के केस में आउटर मोस्ट शेल इज द फर्स्ट शेल है और हीलियम का एटॉमिक नंबर है 2, तो उसमें इलेक्ट्रॉन्स ही कितने हैं? 2। तो इस आउटर मोस्ट शेल इज द first shell itself. So in those cases, if it is the first shell, then it will contain only 2 electrons. And the third rule is that it is necessary to fill the inner energy levels. Only then the electrons can move to the next levels. Means what? If K and L shells are completely filled, only then M shell can be filled. जब तक K shell यानी K में 2, L में 8 नहीं होते तब तक हम लोग M shell में इलेक्ट्रॉन्स नहीं देखेंगे. So unless and until the inner energy levels are filled, the electrons cannot be moved to the next energy level. Now after understanding all the 3 points, which will give a revision first. See, they follow the rule that is 2n square, that is the maximum number of electrons a shell can contain, where n is the number of shell. Now these shell numberings are given from the nucleus. The first, which is the closest to the nucleus, is the first shell, second, third and so on. The first shell is called as the K shell, second L, M and on. Now the K shell, that is the first shell where n is equals to 1. Following the rule 2n square, it will contain only 2 electrons. It can hold only 2 electrons like in the case of helium. The second shell will contain 8 electrons, third 18, fourth 32 and so on. According to the second rule, whichever is the outermost shell of an atom, it can contain at the most 8 electrons. Even if its capacity is to hold 18 or 32 or so on, but it will hold only 8 electrons. So, the number of electrons in the outermost shell is 8, except if it is the first shell, then it can have only 2 electrons. And in the third rule, it says that whatever is the number of electrons, first it is necessary to fill the inner energy levels, only then the electrons will be filled in the next level. Now let us find the electronic configuration of an element whose atomic number is given to be 12. Suppose the electronic configuration of an atom X is 12. So what will be its electronic configuration? We know that the first shell, that is the K shell. How many electrons can we put in it? 2. So here we have 2 electrons. After entering 2 electrons in the K shell, number of electrons left is 12 minus 2, that is 10. Now we have 10 electrons. So in the L shell, we will place another 8 electrons. As it is, L shell cannot hold more than 8 electrons. The next shell is the M shell. And the electrons, the number of electrons left with us is 2. So, the M shell will contain 2 electrons. So, the electronic configuration of an element with atomic number 12 is given as 2, 8, 2. You can try different electronic configurations. If you have any doubt, write in the comment section. Bye.